Hey guys, I'm Becky from Book Bite Reviews, and today I have my November wrap-up. November was a pretty good month for me. I did read a total of 13 books, which is a little bit less than what I have been recently, but that is okay. I will say though that I did have quite a few books that I did not get to, and that means December is going to be intense. Let's just go ahead and talk about what I did read in November, starting with DNFs moving all the way up to 5 stars. There was only one book that I DNF'd this month, and it wasn't because it was bad or anything, but it was this month's Rub Club pick. I DNF'd it because it is the second book in a series, and I was actually kind of enjoying it, so I might eventually one day, probably not, but who knows, go back and read book 1. That was Lady Smoke by Sebastian. And like I said, I was really enjoying this. I didn't read a whole lot that I can really comment on. I just read enough to rate it for the Rub Club program, but it was definitely very intriguing. It seems like we have a lot of political intrigue, which is something that I usually enjoy. I did try to read book 1, which is Ash Princess, before starting this one, and it just wasn't grabbing me, so I just went ahead and read book 2. But then book 2 was really interesting, so one day, maybe, I will go back and read Ash Princess, but for now, this one was DNF'd. Moving all the way up to 3 stars, I only had one 3-star book, and that was Hunted by PC and Kristin Cast. This is book 5 in the House of Night series, and I think it has been one of my least favorite books. I just felt like I was so let down by this book because book 4 was so exciting. Not a whole lot happened in book 4, but it was all a big build up to this book. And nothing really happened. Like, everything gets really quickly wrapped up in the end, but it's not very final and permanent and climactic. And I was just very, very let down by this book. I felt like it was just another book that nothing ended up happening, and it made me really, really disappointed. I felt like we still do not really know our characters, especially the male characters in this book, and I don't know, it just felt meh. I will say though that I have started book 6, and it is a lot better so far than this one, so thank goodness it is saving it for the series, because this one just really, really was a big disappointment. So now on to our 4-star books. First up is books 1 and 4 in the House of Night series, which is Marked and Untamed. Now, Marked I did enjoy. I mean, I am reading the whole series now, but I just felt like it was just lacking something. It was a really good book, but it wasn't my next favorite series, and that's kind of how I feel about the series as a whole. I really, really enjoy it, and I'm so happy that I'm finally reading it, but it's not the best thing in the world. Like, I definitely enjoy Twilight more. Say what you will. I do. This is fun and has a lot of books and very interesting, and it definitely fulfills my paranormal romance vampire fix, but it's just an alright series for me. Number 4 is the book that made number 5 such a disappointment, but I did really, really, really enjoy it. The only reason it's not getting 5 stars is I felt like because nothing happened and it's all a build-up, that it needed to be knocked down a star, just because, I mean, literally nothing happens in this book. It's all just like running around trying to prepare for book 5, which is why book 5 was such a disappointment. Next is After the Woods by Kim Savage. I was very, very excited about this book, and honestly, at the end of the day, it wasn't that bad. In the beginning, I really thought this was going to be a 5-star book. I thought I was going to absolutely love it, but the ending just didn't have the payoff that I was expecting. I did kind of guess and see things coming a little bit just because I had a feeling where the book was going to go. It kind of went how I predicted. I definitely predicted kind of like what ended up happening for everything to happen for this book to even exist, but I did not guess how messed up this person is, and I was pleasantly surprised, but yet at the same time didn't feel fulfilled by the ending of this book. So I did really enjoy it. I would highly suggest it for those who like YA mystery, especially a darker YA mystery, but it wasn't my new favorite. Next was this month's book club pick, and that was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I had so much fun reading it. It really gave me Laini Taylor, Daughter of Smoke and Bone vibes. I just loved the descriptions. I felt like I could really visualize everything. The only thing is that I really wanted to find some character art so I could really see what these demon and half demon characters were supposed to look like, and I cannot find any. So if you guys know where I can find some character art, please let me know, because I would love to check it out, because I just really, 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 really enjoyed this book. The only reason that it didn't get 5 stars is because I felt like my expectations weren't exactly met. I feel like with the Demon King, it didn't push it as far as it should have. He really should have been somebody that we absolutely loathed. And for me, I mean, he's not a good guy. I don't like him. But I just felt like I didn't have that sense of hate. Like, I knew he was a bad guy. He did bad things. He did everything that was, like, expected of him. But I was waiting for something to happen where we see that he is a completely non-redeemable character. And I don't know if it's because I'm reading The Cruel Prince, so I'm expecting normal bad characters to have that redeeming quality. I don't know if this book has changed my mind in the way that I view negative characters, but I just felt like this book wasn't as dark as it could have gone, and I was expecting more from it. I think part of it is that the author was trying to be respectful because of the content matter, but I just kind of wish that she would have taken it to the next level. Not all the way extreme, or this would technically be more of a new adult book. I just mean just like one little bump up to be just like a little bit of a higher YA. Overall, I really, really loved it, and I'm definitely going to be reading the next one. And the last 4-star book is Slayer by Kiersten White. Slayer was definitely something that surprised me because I was really, really excited to try it out. Then I did, and it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, so I was feeling a little bit let down. But then by the end, I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I just found it to be so very interesting. It does take place in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer world, but if you have not watched the show, like me, you can still read it and it makes total sense. I definitely think that there are things that would make more sense if I was already a fan and watched the show. I'm definitely going to be watching the show, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I really liked the arc that we saw with a bunch of our characters, and I'm very excited to read book 2 and see where exactly this is all going to go. I will say I was a little bit let down in the romance department, but overall, I think this is a pretty solid book, and I would definitely suggest you check it out. And last but certainly not least are my 5-star reads for November. First up is a novella, and that is In Her Wake by K.A. Tucker. This is book 1.5 in the 10 Tiny Breaths series, and I just absolutely loved it. It really made me want to go back and reread book 1 of 10 Tiny Breaths, but it was so, so good. If you have not read a K.A. Tucker book, I highly suggest it. She is one of my favorite authors. I just love everything she does. She definitely writes in more of a upper YA, new adult area. Her characters are always like 18 and up, so it is more of the new adult area, but I definitely think that people who are fans of mature YA will also find her books really interesting. And I just think that they're all very dark, but balance it with some sort of light, and they're real and raw, and I just love them. I can't say too much about this novella if you have not read the series, but just know that if you have or you've been thinking about it, I would highly suggest reading this book. I sometimes just skip over novellas, but they really are worth the time. And I definitely think that that is true about this one. I just loved it so, so much. And it really gave Trent's character a whole lot more dimension. And we just understand more of what he does. And yeah, 5 stars. Next is book 2 and 3 of House of Night, which was Betrayed and Chosen. Since book 1 was a 4-star, I was very happy to have found that book 2 and 3 were 5 stars. Book 4 was almost a 5-star if some action would have happened, but I really, really enjoyed these ones. I thought that they really made the series and made me want to continue on, even though that was the plan all along. But it's definitely nice when something you plan on reading ends up being worth your time, and I definitely felt that from from books 2 and 3. I don't really have much to say because I am talking about these books a lot, but I would definitely say that if you are thinking about trying out The House of Night, or it's always been something on your back burner like it has been on mine, definitely check it out. It is worth your time. Next is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This is a standalone YA fantasy that takes place in the fairy world. It does have some characters that are in the Cruel Prince series, so if you are a fan of that, you will really enjoy that. I don't know if I would like this as much if I had read it before reading The Cruel Prince. It did come out before it, and I've had it on my shelf for a very, very long time, but decided to finally just now read it. And I really, really enjoyed it. I kind of felt like this is almost a novella for that series, even though it's totally not. But I definitely feel like it is the perfect hangover book if you need one after reading The Cruel Prince. So I just loved it. I thought it was so great. I really, really enjoyed that it is a standalone, and it really was just everything I was looking for. I enjoyed my time with it so much. Next is Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. Yes, I have finally read this book that I feel like everybody has read. Everybody loves it. Everybody's reading the last book, and I am just now finally reading the first one. But I am happy to say that I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think that this is a new absolute favorite. Like, I really don't think this is going to end up on my top 10 of 2019, but it definitely is a new overall favorite. I'm definitely going to be continuing on with the series. I will say that the beginning is a bit confusing. We do follow the points of view of all three queens, and we also get the points of view of their friends and sort of family members. So there's a lot of characters in this book, but I feel like Kendare did it so well, and it all just really, really worked out. It definitely could have gone downhill very, very fast, and it didn't. I was pleasantly surprised by the ending, and I just loved my time with it. So I will definitely be picking up book 2 at some point. And last but certainly not least is my overall favorite book that I read this month, and that was Life and Death, The Twilight Reimagined by Stephenie Meyer. I have waited so long to read this book, and I finally did, and it was absolutely outstanding. If you're a fan of Twilight and you have not read this yet, I highly suggest it. It is definitely worth your time. I was kind of expecting it to be Twilight, just gender swapped, and everything that happens in Twilight is what's going to happen in this one. But honestly, Stephenie Meyer changes a lot. She definitely says in her author note that she recognized some of the things that were cheesy or didn't work in Twilight, and she's always wanted to rewrite it and show that she has grown as an author, because it's been quite a long time since Twilight came out. And with Life and Death, she finally got that opportunity, and it was so good. The ending is very different from Twilight. I loved it so much. I don't know if that's how I would have wanted Twilight to end up happening, but I was very intrigued by this. It's something that I've always thought about, what if this happened instead? And I just loved it. I really hope that one day Stephenie Meyer decides to continue on this series and write some more, because it definitely wouldn't be anything like the original Twilight series. It would be its own separate thing because of this ending. I'm also still very patiently waiting for Midnight Sun, but we'll see if that ever happens. Alright guys, that is everything that I read in November. Please let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it and you want to see more bookish content from me, please hit subscribe. And if you want to be notified as soon as my videos go live here on YouTube, hit the notification bell. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!